Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. So today's video is on ASP.NET Core Identity Series in .NET 7 application. Okay, in this video we are going to create a Razor Page application where we enable identity authentication, and we are going to go through main steps of the authentication process. And in this video series we are going to implement social login authentication as well, like Facebook, Google, Microsoft account, etc. Okay, so what is ASP.NET Core Identity? ASP.NET Core Identity is a built-in login functionality library that supports authentication for all different .NET applications like MVC, Razor Pages, and Blazor Server. Next, it provides rich authentication UI pages which are customizable as well. Means by default, we will have all the pages like registration, login, password, forgot password, like all authentication related pages are by default available through ASP.NET Core Identity. And if we want to customize them, we can do it. Okay. Next, adaptable for any authentication providers like Google, Facebook, Outlook, means social authentication. So using this library, we can use uh, social authentications as well, like Google and Facebook. Okay. Next, can be integrated with other authentication libraries or applications as well, like Identity Server 4 and Azure Active Directory and Azure Active Directory B2C. All these examples I have mentioned are already by default authentication applications. So in those applications also, we can use ASP.NET Core library, identity library inside of it. Okay. So that's all about basic introduction on ASP.NET Core Identity. So to implement authentication, I am going to create one Razor Page application with by default authentication enabled. Okay. So for this demo, I am using .NET 7 Razor Page application to display ASP.NET Core Identity Authentication Flow. Okay. And I am going to use editor like Visual Studio Code. So to use Visual Studio Code, we have to use the .NET CLI command for creating the application. So if you want to use Visual Studio Editor, which is a first priority editor, okay. But to create the .NET 7 any application, you must have you must have Visual Studio 2022 latest version, okay? Because below versions, .NET 7 application won't available in Visual Studio Editor, okay? But here I am using .NET CLI commands and Visual Studio Code as my editor. Okay, this is the CLI command, okay? So .NET space new space web app. Web app represents I want to create Razor Page application. -auth individual. Here I mentioned create authentication, okay, like individual user authentication along with the Razor Page application. And here you can see another flag ULD that represents create the local DB, which is a SQL DB. Okay, -o and name of the project. Okay, -o for creating the output directory. Okay, if you are using Visual Studio 2022, it is very easy. With the UI, we can select the template. Okay, so let me create my Razor Page application. Okay, here I miss flag like it should be double hyphen. Okay, now it is creating. And if I minimize my command prompt, here you can see application got created for me. Okay, let me open my application in Visual Studio Code Editor. Okay, here is the Visual Studio code editor. Okay, and here is my Razor page application. And if you open CS Proj, you can see the framework, which is the latest framework, .NET 7.4. And you can see default ASP.NET Core Identity libraries also installed and creating the project, because I have specified, right, individual authentication. So ASP.NET Core Identity Authentication automatically configured into this application. Okay. So now if you go to this program.cs file, here is the DB contest configuration. Okay. Application DB contest by default, it will be created for us. Okay. This is the DB contest and it inherits the identity DB contest. That means it can play with the identity ASP.NET Core identity related tables. It can play with that. Okay. And next, you can see here another add default identity configuration. So it helps to render the our identity ASP.NET Core identity default pages. Okay, are nothing but it configures the identity. This add default identity. Okay. Now the thing is, we have to create the uh, tables for our ASP.NET Core identity. If you observe here, database context is default configure, right? And here in the data folder, you can see the migrations file. So I think you know migration files to generate the tables from the classes, right? So here already default tables that are related to our ASP.NET Core identity are generated as the migrations based on our application DB context. Okay. So if you simply run the migration file, our tables get created. But I want to create the tables in a database that I am going to specify. Okay. So for this demo, I am using the local database. Okay. Local server, SQL server. So here, let me create one database for my demo. Okay. So I will name it like Q2 demo identity. ASP identity. So this is my database name. Okay. So I want to add all ASP.NET identity tables into this database. Okay. So for that, we have to change the uh, connection string. Here we have a connection string in app settings.json file, right? So here we have to change. I think just this database set, if you replace, that is fine. Okay. So here, just remove this database value. Okay. And let me get my database name. Okay. And add it here. Okay. That is the change we have to make in our connection string. So now what I can do, I have to change the server name also. Okay. I want to give my local DB server name. Mostly it will be the same, but let me, to make it sure, let me copy the server name and replace it here. You observe both are same, just casing is different. Server name casing, local DB. Okay. But to make sure I am using correct server, I just replaced. Okay. So I am done with the connection string change. Now the thing, I have to create the uh, this migrations I have to run so that identity tables will be added into this database we just created, right, into that database. Okay. So before doing that, we have to run few commands. Okay. Here you can see the blog I have written regarding this video. Okay. I have already written blog on this content what I am going to explain in this video. Okay, the reason I opened this blog, we can easily copy the comments and we can use them. Okay, so first thing is we have to run the migrations. For that, if you are using Visual Studio 2022, just open a package manager console and run this command. So here I am using Visual Studio Code, right? So I have to follow different commands. The first thing is whoever using Visual Studio Code, make sure to install .NET EF Core tools in your local system. So here you can see observe global command. It is global command. Okay. So if you run this command globally, then only this .NET EF commands will work. Okay. Next command is the migration command. Okay, that is .NET EF database update. So copy this command and in my Visual Studio Code, let me open the terminal. So here in the view menu, you can see the terminal. Okay, and let me paste the command .NET EF database update. Okay, let's run it. And here you can see execute commands regarding the tables. Create table, create indexes. All these are related to our ASP.NET Core identity tables. Okay, all those are, it is displaying a message successfully executed. Okay, to confirm that, let's go to our SQL server. Let me expand my database and expand the table section. See, here you can see the tables around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Almost 8 tables were created. Okay, if you see first one, EF migrations history, this is for just migrations. We have run the migrations, right? So all those records will be stored here. Let me open the select query, and here you can see the latest migration just we ran, right? That is recorded here, just like a log table, migrations log table. And here next table we have to look ASP.NET Core users. Okay, so this is the main table where we are going to store the registered users like email and the password, password hash and phone number. All the user information will be stored into this user table, ASP.NET user table. Okay, and the second important tables are like ASP.NET user logins. This is another one important table. So this table to track the what kind of authentication user followed. Okay, that means which kind of authentication user like whether user normal ASP.NET Core Identity application login or Google authentication or Facebook authentication. All that information will be stored here, and this data this table will be mapped with our normal user table only. If you use Google or Facebook, some other social login also, user will be created here only. But whether that user is created from the uh, application or third party social logins, that information will be stored here. That is ASP.NET user logins. Okay. Next, we can have roles. I think majority of people know what are the roles like admin role, IT job role, like that, employee role, like that, main roles, okay? Like a lookup table, okay? Like this is like a lookup table. All the roles our application supports will be added into this uh, table, okay? Next, claims, user claims. So this is the next important uh, table. So these are the claims. So claims are very important because uh, nothing but claims. These are like user claims. Yes, this user contains this permission. This user contains this permission to view this page or to update this page. Like that, claims will be stored here. Claim type and user ID are mapped. So this is like a many to many relationship like table. Okay. Next, Next, you role claims. For roles also we can add claims. Okay, so this is mapping table between the role and the claims table. Okay, and next, user claims we have seen, user roles we have seen, and user roles. Finally, the mapping between the roles table and the users table. When a user contains particular role, okay, all the specific roles that contains claims also will be applied to the user. Okay, so these are the uh, brief description about the ASP.NET Core Identity Table. Okay, let me run my application. Okay, let me open no terminal. Okay, here Visual Studio Code command to run my application is .NET Watch run. Okay, here you can see build process, and here you can see my application is running, and here you can see menu items like register and login. Okay, so if you go to home page and privacy, all these are my Razor page application pages. If I click on register, these are all identity ASP.NET Core identity pages. You can see register, login, forgot password, everything. But if you explore our project, you won't see any pages that are related to identity. Here you can see URL. It is our under areas folder. If I expand areas folder, there is nothing here. Just it is using our pages layout also as a master page to the identity pages. But how these pages are loading? Those pages are loading because of the library by default installed. That is nothing but Microsoft ASP.NET Core Identity.UI. All those pages are coming from this library. Okay, but it is very obvious in any application we have to customize, right? We don't like default design, right? This is very minimum design with the minimum data. All these we want to redesign them. So to redesign them, we have to generate the files, okay, ASP.NET Core identity files. So once we generate the files explicitly, those files will override the existing files inside of this library. Okay, that is the reason we have to generate those files explicitly. So generating those files, it is very easy. We no need to create them manually. There is a command to do that. Okay, so let me run that command. So to generate those files, we call scaffolding, identity scaffolding. Okay, if you are using Visual Studio, first thing is you have to install this Visual Studio Web Code Generation Design package. Okay, first install this package. Next, follow this step. You have to simply right click on the project and click on add. There you found a new scaffolding item. If you click on the new scaffolded item, you will get all the options, okay, for scaffolding the ASP.NET Core identity. Like it will show options like to override the layout page or not. You want to use the existing database context or you want to create the new database context or not. All those configurations will display just with check boxes. Whatever you want, check them and create. So automatically files get generated inside of this identity and the pages folder. Okay, so for Visual Studio users it is bit different. Okay, so the first command is we have to install this code generated tool globally. Okay, like what, like we have installed already one globally, right? EF core command globally. Same way this code generation tool also we have to install, then only we can uh, scaffold using our Visual Studio or .NET CLI command. So first install this. Since I have already added this command into my system, I am not repeating again. Okay, so next thing, like Visual Studio Code, we have to install this package. Okay, web design package. Copy that. Okay, and go to my application. Okay, And let me open one more terminal here by clicking this plus and paste the command. Let me install this package. And here package is successfully installed. To check package installed or not, just go to CS Proj and uh, check the package reference element. Here you can see this is the package just installed now. Okay, so that means we done with package installation. Next thing, we have to run the command for generating the scaffolding. For Visual Studio 2022 users, it is like a UI representation for implementing the scaffolding. For us, here we have a command. Okay, so .NET space ASP.NET hyphen code generator space, and it is about identity space, and here this flag represent a database context, and you have to pass here fully qualified database context name. Okay, so copy this command. Okay, open the terminal. Let me clear these logs. Let's add the command, and here I have to specify the fully qualified name of my application DB context. So I am removing this placeholder. So let's open the application DB context to get the fully qualified name. Nothing but this namespace dot our application DB context name we have to specify here. So let me give the namespace ASP.NET ident dot razor page dot data. Okay, let's run the command so that our files get scaffolded. Nothing but the files of identity will be generated explicitly. Build is failed. Why build is failed? Here it is showing like build is failed. Let me check. Did I change something? Okay, let me run the application again. .NET watch run. So application is good. Let's run our command again. Let's try again. Building the project. Identity, running the identity generator. Okay, this time it is successful. Let's check whether files generated or not. Yes, these are generated. Here you can see. Previously we have just, I think this view start, right? Now if you observe, some are additional pages as well as a one folder, accounts folder. Here you can see the pages, razor pages. Okay, so register.cshtml for our, this is our registration page. Okay, and login. This is our login page. So finally, we have scaffolded our ASP.NET UI pages. Now you can go directly here and you can apply your custom changes into these pages. Okay, so that's all about the scaffolding. So let's complete this video by doing normal registration and one login. Okay, so I click on login, register page. Okay, application is not running. Let me run the application. Okay, so delete it. Again rerun. Okay, okay. Again rerun the application. .NET watch run. Okay, application is running. Let's click on the register. So let me give one email address and the password. Okay, and confirm password. Okay, click on register. And here you can see a message. This app doesn't currently have email sender register. Okay, how to implement the email sender? Look for the Microsoft Docs. So to not to break the user's flow, because email confirmation is mandatory by default in our ASP.NET Core identity registration. Okay, so in general, here there is a link, right? Click for confirm email. This link must be sent to our email address. Here there is no email uh, configurations by default. We have to implement them manually. So the smart way, what they did is Microsoft team, they just displayed the click uh, confirm email link directly onto this page so that whoever learning this application or whoever started integrating this application is not blocking. Okay, so simply click on this confirm email to further continue with this application. Okay, first let me go to my table, that is ASP.NET users. Here there is one record. Now I got email and my password hash. Okay, and here you can see email is email confirmed is 0. So what I will do, let me open the login page in another folder. Let me try to log in without email confirmation. Okay, see, invalid email attempt because email is not yet confirmed. So what I will do, I will click on this link now. See, thank you message. Email confirmation is done. If I go to database and execute the query, now email is confirmed. Now if I go to login page, okay, and if I try again, see, I am successfully logged in. Here you can see my username is showing here. Okay, by default username and email will be same. If you want to customize it, you can customize it. Okay, so you can see the logout also, logout button. That means I am successfully authenticated. Okay, so that's all about basic setup and default registration and the login process. Okay, in the next video, we are going to implement one email service. Okay, so whatever the fake email confirmation we just uh, gone through, right, within the application, that we will correct it. That means we are going to implement the real email sender and we are going to register again. If the email is correct email, we are going to receive a confirmation email link, and using that link, I am going to confirm the registration. That process we are going to explore in the next video. Okay. Previously, we just did or followed the fake email confirmation, right? Let's see that again. Okay. So first let me create the my registered record. Okay. So that I can re-register again. I am deleting. Okay. Now let's go to our application and go to registration form. Let me register again. So this is the registration confirmation message page where we have a link for confirm email. So this is a fake one. What is the actual means? We should get a email from our email address. We have to click on the link. Okay. But for the learners, Microsoft provided this fake email confirmation. Now we have to remove this code and we have to implement the actual email sending process. Okay, so to send email from our Razor Page application, we must have a some third party email service. Okay, so for that I am going to use the SendGrid, a third party provider. Okay, just go to sendgrid.com and make sure to start free service. Okay, you have to sign up. Since I have already signed up, I am going to sign in. Okay, So this SendGrid is a very helpful service where we get, I think, around daily 1,000 emails for free. For learning purpose, it is one of the best email service provider. Okay, let me log into my SendGrid account. Okay, this is my SendGrid welcome page. So now what we have to do means we have to register a from address. Okay, so from that from address, the emails going to be sent to the users. Okay, to do that, on left hand side menu, go to settings. Okay, and click on the sender authentication. On clicking sender authentication, you are going to see like this page. Okay, and since I have already registered one email address, it is showing like this. If you haven't registered, you will see a get started button here. Okay, if you click on, let me click on this. Okay, so if you click on the get sender also, you are going to receive a form like this. Okay, where you have to define here. There are two main things. Okay, name and from email address. Name you can give anything. So this name will be the display name for the email sent to the users. And this is the from address for the users. In general, you have to create a something like your application account or your organization account. Okay, those kind of emails have to be provided. For testing purpose, I have given my personal email address. In general, we should give the our organization address or our application based address. Okay, remaining things, there are so many mandatory fields here. You can give anything, it will accept. But two main things important are name and the your email address. Once you create it, it will add here single sender verification list. Okay. And if you observe, once you register, here you won't see a verification. It will be a cross, means it need to be verified. Okay. That means once you register, okay, you are going to get a email from the SendGrid, like confirmation email. If you click on that link, here verified will be get a tick mark. That means approved. Okay. So this email can be approved by the SendGrid. So this is the from email address I can use in my application. Okay. Let's go to our application. Let me create some settings in the app settings.development.json. Okay. So I will create settings like SendGrid settings. Okay. Here I am going to add from email. Okay, and email name. Okay, so those values we have just registered, right? So this is the name. Okay, email name, and this is the from email address. Okay, now we have to get the SendGrid API authentication key as well. Okay, to get the API authentication key, go to SendGrid website. On left hand side, go to settings. Again, go to settings. So here you can see the API keys. Okay. So if you click on create API, here there are the permissions that we have to provide for our API key. So you can give some name and you can select full access and click on create. Once you're done, the API key will be generated here. One more thing, whenever we create first time, it will display on creating, it will display the API key. It will show only one time. Okay, you should copy and save it safely. If you want to see second time, we have to regenerate it. Okay, so since I have already saved it safely, I am going to use it here. Okay, so API key So I am going to add here my already saved API key. Okay. I am again mentioning whenever you click create at the first time, this SendGrid will display the API key. Please make sure to copy it because second time it won't show. Okay. If you want second time, you have to click like edit and you have to click on update. Again, it will generate a new API key. Okay. Okay, I have added my API key. So now what I have to do means I have to create a class for my settings so that I can easily access those settings into our application. So let me create a class that represents our settings. So for that, let me create a folder like settings. Inside of that folder, let me create a class like uh, SendGrid settings. Here is my SendGrid settings class. Here we are going to add the properties for each setting. Okay. So to read those settings wherever we want or to inject these settings wherever you want, we want to register these settings with our DI. Okay. So go to program.cs file. So here just above this app build, we have to do any kind of service registration. Okay. So builder dot services dot configure. Okay. I want to configure SendGrid settings. Okay. So let me import the namespace. And here I have to pass the path of these settings in app settings. Okay. So to do that, we can pass builder.configurations.get section. And to this section, we have to pass the name of the main property or the parent property. Okay. So with this registration, now I can inject this SendGrid as a options. Okay. So that I can access those settings wherever I want. Okay. So that's about the SendGrid settings. Now SendGrid itself provide a package so that we can use those packages to work with the SendGrid in .NET applications directly. Okay. So the first package we have to install. Okay, search like SendGrid NuGet package. So here is the .NET CLI command. If you're using Visual Studio, please copy it from the package manager. So let me copy from .NET CLI. Okay, let me open one more terminal and install the package. Okay, so to confirm it, we know we can check in CS project file. Okay, here is the SendGrid package reference. Okay, along with this, we can inject one more dependent package that is for support the DA. To support the SendGrid library for dependency injection, we need to install one more library. Okay. Okay, such like SendGrid dot extensions dot dependency injection. Okay. So as usual, copy from the .NET CLI. Okay, open the terminal again, clean these logs. Okay, try to install it. Okay, it is installed successfully. So let me check in the CS project file and I can see the library reference. Okay. So now I have the SendGrid files, right? So now I can register the SendGrid in the our program.cs file for DA injection. Okay. So to register that, builder.services.add send grid. Okay. And for this, we have to import the namespace. So send grid dot extensions dot dependency injection namespace must be imported. Okay. Here in the options, we can configure the our API key. Okay. So options dot API key. So to this we have to assign the API key. So to read the API key from the JSON file, we can use builder dot configurations dot get section. Okay, we know this is the parent property of the settings. So inside of the sections, I want the API key. So for that, I can extend like get value that is of type string, and it should pass the input parameter of the main property, that is the actual property name. Okay. So here what I am doing means I am globally configuring the API key for my SendGrid library. Okay, that is the registration. Okay. So now I have to implement the email sending logic. But by default, ASP.NET Core Identity uses the interface for email sending library. So let me show you that. Okay. So if I go to my registration.cshtml.cs, here there is a file like interface like email sender, but we have only interface only. There is no implementation. So what we can do, we can create a service, and that service going to inherit this interface, so that actual logic gets automatically executed. Okay. So for that, let me create a new folder like services. Okay. And here I'm going to create a new service like, okay, what is the interface name? Go to register.cshtml email sender, right? So I am going to name my service like email sender service. Okay, here is our email sender service. Let's inherit the I email service. Okay, so let's implement the namespace. Sorry, import the namespace and implement the contract methods. Okay, so this is the default method that we have to implement for the I email sender service. Okay, so here I can use my send grid logic for sending the email. Okay, so first thing is I can use a I send grid client for invoking the send grid services. Okay, so let me add a variable like I send grid. I think it is I send grid client. Okay, so send grid client. Let's import the I send grid client namespace that comes from the send grid actual NuGet package that we installed. Okay, now let me inject this through our constructor. Okay, send grid client. Okay, so now here let's implement the actual logic. So let me prepare a send grid message object. Okay, where new send grid uh, message. Okay, let's import the namespace that comes from the sendgrid.helpers.mail. Okay, so here we have to do some configurations like from address. Okay, from address email object. So it has a overloaded method where we have to pass the from email and the from name. Name is optional, but we can pass it because we have it right in our app settings.json file from email address and from email name. Right, these two things I have to pass as a input to this email address object. Okay, so let me inject the send grid settings here. So private read only send grid settings. Okay, let me import the send grid settings. We know ASP.NET Core for injecting the settings. I can use I options. Okay, not IAS options, I option, and type will be send grid. So let me import the namespace. Okay, send grid settings. Okay, now here send grid, sorry, send grid settings equal to send grid settings dot value. Okay, and I haven't assigned the send grid client also. Okay, so let me assign send grid client equal to send grid client. Okay, now I have settings, so I can pass the value send grid settings dot from email comma and grid settings dot email name. Okay, next I can prepare the subject. If you see subject is directly coming as an input to this method, so I can directly assign that subject. And next HTML body content, that is also coming as the input to this method, so pass it here. Now message dot add to, here we have to pass the two email address, nothing but our user email address, so that is coming as a input here. Okay, I will pass it here. So that's about the configuration. Now what I can do, await send grid client dot send email async and pass the message object as a input parameter. Okay, that's it. That is our email logic using the send grid. So now let me register this service uh, in the DI, because if you observe here, it is already injecting the email service, email center service, but now we explicitly implemented, right? So to work it in the DI, we must register in the program.cs file. Okay, so here builder services dot add, let me add it at scope level, so it will work for per request. Okay, so here I can use that email sender service map with email sender service. Okay, let's import the namespaces. Okay, and one final thing is we need to remove the that fake message. We have fake registration message right here. Click here to relogin. This is a fake link. Fake link means this is directly displaying the user on the page. So we have to change it. For that, we have to go for this page, registration confirmation page. Okay, so let's check registration confirmation page here. Okay, so here on get async method, there is a comment added by default code itself. Once you have a real email sender, you should remove this code. Okay, so let me remove this entire code. Let me comment this. Okay, so that's it. We are done with our email integration. Let's test and do actual email confirmation process. Okay, so Let me delete again. Okay. So that let me register the user again. Okay, again I am getting, sorry, I forgot to build the project. Okay, so let me delete again. Okay. Let me rerun the project. Now try to register. Now see, there is no fake link. It's displaying correct message like please check your email address to confirm your account. That means my email is sent to the server. Okay, so let's query our SQL and here email is confirmed is 0 means I have to confirm my email. So let me go to my email, actual email. So if you not found in the inbox, please go to the spam. Why? Because it contains the localhost URL. So security reasons, Gmail can push into the spam. So here is the email, and this is my email name and my registered email from addresses. Okay. Now if I click on this link, see, I got thank you confirming your email. I did real-time email confirmation. So if I check here, see, now email is confirmed. Now if I try to log in, I am successfully authenticated. So that's all about integrating the email service into our ASP.NET Core identity authentication. Okay. So in the next video, we are going to do two-factor authentication by sending a authentication code to your email address. So let's have a quick look at our current login process. So if I click on login and if I entered valid username and password, I'm able to log into the application. Now I want to enable the two-factor authentication. Means one more layer of protection. Means after user entering correct email address and password, instead of directly authenticating the user, we are going to display one more authentication page, like some OTP page. Okay, so when user entered valid username and password, we are going to display the two-factor authentication page where we are going to display a text box. In the text box, user need to enter the secured code. That secured code we are going to send to the registered user email address. Okay, if the user entered correct two-factor authentication code, then we are going to allow him to authenticate into our application. Okay, so by default, ASP.NET Core application supports this two-factor authentication. So to send or to enable the two-factor authentication, okay, for an email, the main thing is if you go to our database to enable two-factor authentication for an email, the main thing is the email column should contain email address, that is mandatory, and email must be confirmed, and there is one more column that is two-factor enabled. This must be true. Okay, so let me update it. Okay, Since here only one record in the table, right? So I am directly updating. Okay. So if I execute again query, now two-factor authentication is enabled. So now let's check the login flow again. Okay. Okay, now here you can see the two-factor authentication page, and there is a text field. It expecting some secured code. Okay, once user enter that secured code, then only user get authenticated. Okay, so everything is already predefined by default with the ASP.NET Core identity. Only thing we have to do is we have to generate the code, and that code must be sent to the user email address, and also after user entering that code we have to validate, right? That validation logic also we have to add. So let's go to this two-factor authentication page. So it is available at in our areas folder. Okay, in identity pages. So here there is a login two-factor authentication. So this is our HTML and this is our CS model page, Razer page. Okay. So here on get async, if you see, this is the existing logic. So here if you see, there is a method like to get two-factor authentication user async. So this method is helps to retrieve the user information, because how it will this method get means when this page is coming, once user entered valid email address and password, right? So at that time, if the two-factor authentication enabled and email is confirmed and email exists, then this page is loading, right? So in the login logic itself, so let's go to login logic. So login.cshtml. So here, if you go to post method, if password signing result get two-factor authentication, we are redirecting to this page. But whenever this two-factor is returning, right, inside of it, it will create a cookie. Okay. So if I inspect element and go to application and cookies, here you can see two-factor ID, user ID. So this cookie is created here when two-factor authentication is enabled. So using that cookie information here, we are able to get the valid user information. Okay. So this cookie is created for when we enable the two-factor authentication. So using that cookie here, it is able to get the user information. So now here I want to add a logic in this onGetAsync method, like generating some secured code, and that secured code must be sent to the user. Okay. So first thing is we have to get the valid two-factor providers. Okay. So valid two-factor providers. So for that there is a default identity method itself. Okay. Let's use that one. So where providers equal to await. So here I think iAsync manager is already injected. So I'm going to use that one. I sign in manager dot, not sign in manager. I think it should be user manager. Sorry, it should be user manager. Okay. User manager dot get valid two-factor providers async. Okay. So to this two-factor provider async, we should pass our user information. Okay. So it's going to give the collection of strings. So what it will do means if email is enabled for the user, then email just string will come. If phone number is also enabled, or two-factor authentication, phone number also will come. Okay. If this two-factor is not enabled or the email is not confirmed, then email won't come. Okay. So here we are checking whether two-factor authentication for that email is enabled or not. Okay. If it is enabled, we are going to get a collection of string. In that we should contain provider like email. Okay. Next, what I will do, I will check if the provider of email exists or not. Okay. Okay. If the provider is email, then I want to generate the token. So to generate the token also, there is a default ASP.NET Core identity method. So token is here nothing but a secured code, some secured password number like OTP. Okay. So await user manager dot, okay, generate two-factor token async. Okay. To this, we have to pass two parameters like user information, comma type of provider. We know it is already a email type, right? This string I have to pass here. Okay. So if only default providers, whatever we get in this collection, those names only here you should pass. If you pass empty or some random text, it won't work. Okay. It only works for providers like email, phone number, etc. Default supported by the our ASP.NET Core identity. Okay. Now it will gives me the code. Okay. So now I want to send this token to my email address. So in previously we have already implemented the email sending process for our registration email confirmation, right? That means email sending logic is already exist. So email sender service here, our logic is already exist. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this email sender service in my two-factor authentication file as well. So let me inject that file first. Okay, let's import the namespace. Okay, here mail sender. Okay, email sender. Okay, that's about generating the code and sending the code. Now I have to write the code for sending. So await email sender dot send email async, and it is expecting user email. So we have a user object, right? User dot email address I'm going to pass. Next subject. So email to FA code, two-factor authentication code. Okay. And next I have to pass the HTML code. Okay. So to this HTML code, we are going to add our code. I'm going to add simple h1 tag. Okay. And here let me pass the token. Okay, that is my email body. Okay, that is my logic. So we are done with on get async method. So here we are checking the provider, and if email provider exists, we are going to send it. Okay. So next. So on user submitting, we have to validate it also, right? So what I will do here, everything will be common. Only one thing we have to change here, that is this logic. Okay. So here where result equal to await sign in manager dot two factor sign in async. Okay, here provider is email. Okay, and the code here is the authentication code. It is already reading. Okay, next persistent and remember client. I can copy from the above line. Okay, these two parameters I will pass here. Okay, because this two-factor authentication signing won't validating our email. Okay, that is why we should use this two-factor sign-in async. Okay. Okay, so that's it. Let me add debuggers so that I can show you the code. Okay, here I want a debugger and here on submitting I want a debugger. Okay, let's stop the existing code. Okay, now let me run. Okay, let's log in. Give the valid credentials so that we can see the two-factor page. Okay, I got debugging. So if you see this provider, it is a collection and it contains email. Okay, if you want, you can check. So what you can do, either you can disable two-factor or you can email confirmation is there, right? That also you can remove. If you remove that one, sorry, please leave two-factor enabled and remove email confirmation to 0. Then you will see it won't come here. Okay, email won't come here. So only confirmed providers only we will get as a collection in this providers collection. Okay, so now I am getting collection. So let me go to next line. So here I am trying to get the token, right? Let's see whether I am getting the token or not. See some code. So this code we are going to send it to the email. Okay, so I entered into the two-factor page. Now let me check my email. See here, this is my two-factor code. So let me copy this code and enter here and try to log in. So here also we added debugger, right? So let's check, and here you can see success message. That means two-factor success. Let's continue the debug. And if you see, I am successfully logged in. Means I have added extra layer of protection in the form of two-factor authentication. Okay. So in this video, we send our two-factor authentication code to email, right? So next video, we try to set up and send the two-factor code to phone number. Okay. To send authentication code or two-factor authentication code to the user mobile, we should have some provider. Okay. So for this SMS service, I am going to use the Twilio provider. Okay, this is Twilio website. So please make sure to sign up with this website. Okay, since I have already signed up, I am going to log in. Okay, on successful login, we are going to land on this console.twilio.com. Okay, once you entered, you have to create a project here. You see here, I have already created my project. Once you create a project, Twilio will provide you one account SID and authentication key means token, and one Twilio phone number you have to enable it. So this will be our from a phone number. Okay. And here I am going to use the free credits to consume the SMS service. Okay. Here you can see these are the free credits left for me. Okay. Here one limitation with the free trial is that here you can see a message. You are on a trial account. You can only send messages and make calls to verified phone number. Means you have to register the user phone numbers also. Okay, since it is a free trial. If it is a paid version, you no need to register any user phone numbers. Okay, if you click on it, you can see these are all my phone numbers. Okay, I have registered. These are my two phone numbers I have registered. So I am going to use this one of the phone number as a user phone number to fetch the SMS. Okay, so coming to our ASP.NET Core identity, to enable the two-factor authentication code for mobile number, the minimum requirement is it should user must have the phone number and phone number must be confirmed and two-factor enabled. So let me update the phone number and phone number confirmed to true. Okay. And here I am going to add my phone number. Okay. You must have these three columns for the mobile or phone number two-factor authentication. Okay, now we have to integrate the SMS service in our ASP.NET Core Identity application. So first, let's configure the Twilio settings. So for that, what I will do, let me go to my app settings.development.json, just like SendGrid settings used for email sending, right? Same way, we have to add the Twilio settings also. Okay, create Twilio settings. So we have to configure account SID, authentication token, and from phone number as well. Okay. So account SID, auth token, from phone. Okay. Let's configure these values. Okay. Now let me create a class for this setting so that I can use those settings wherever I want. Okay. So in the settings folder, let me create a new class like Twilio settings. Okay, this is our Twilio settings class. Let's add those properties. Okay, let's duplicate it. And now we have to map the class and the settings in the JSON file, right? For that, we have to register in the program.cs file. Okay, just like this SendGrid settings, we have to register them as well. So copy this line and change the type to Twilio and also change this root property setting name. Okay. Now let me create a new service file for the SMS logic. Okay. So inside of the services folder, let me create a new service file like Okay, ISMS sender service. Okay, in this interface, let's define our method definition. I will name it like send SMS async, and it's going to have two input properties like to phone, okay, and the message. Okay, now let's implementing this service. Let's create the one service class, SMS sender service. Okay, now let inherit our ISMS sender service. Okay, let's implement the method. So here we need to get the Twilio settings. So let's inject the Twilio settings. Sorry, we have to use I options. Okay, so this I option loads from the Microsoft dot extensions dot options. So now I can assign Twilio settings dot value. Okay, now to communicate or to invoke the Twilio service, okay, there is a package for .NET application. So let's install it. Such like Twilio NuGet package, and you will have one package like Twilio and another package is Twilio ASP.NET Core. Okay, so let's install this core package. Okay, and Visual Studio 2022 users, you can copy this command. So here I'm using .NET CLI, right? So let me copy here. So let me open one more terminal and install the package. A package installed. To confirm it, we know we can check the CS proj file, and here is the Twilio package. Let's get back to our service method. Okay, so first thing is we have to initialize the Twilio, okay, by inputting our account SID and authentication token. Okay, so Twilio client that comes from Twilio library we just installed dot init. Okay, so to this initial method we have to pass here there is a username and password, right? Nothing but our account SID and authentication token. Okay, those are available through our Twilio settings, account SID and auth token. Okay, and next simply we can write like await message resource. Okay, that comes from, okay, let's import the namespace. That comes from Twilio.REST API v210 account. So it's going to internally it contains logic for HTTP call to the Twilio service for posting our message. Okay. So message service dot create async. Okay. To this method we have to do some configuration. Okay. So we are going to use second overloaded method. So here to phone number, nothing but the user number which we want to send the message. So that comes from as a input to this method. Next, from number. From number is we already configured in the Twilio settings. And next, body, nothing but the message. So that also coming as a input to this method. So let me pass it here. Okay, that's it. Everything will be taken care by these two line of code for sending an SMS to the customer. Okay, and I have, and now finally let's register these two services in the program.cs file. Okay, so just like email sender. Okay, I SMS sender service SMS sender. Now if I go to my two-factor authentication page, so log in two-factor authentication page. So here on get method, we have to send our token, right? Previously we checked for email, right? Same way I can write one more logic like if provider, let's copy this one. Okay, and check for phone number exist or not. Okay, so this provider will return phone number when our phone number confirmed is enabled in our database. Okay, and let me put it to else. Okay, so here I am going to generate the token. So now this is not email, this is phone number, right? So the input parameter must be changed to phone number. Okay, because the token whatever is generated is assigned to the respective provider name itself. Okay, here we have to send the SMS. So let's inject the SMS sender. So SMS sender service. Okay, so let's inject the SMS sender service. Okay, assign the SMS sender service. So now await SMS sender service dot send async. And here we have to pass the user phone number and the message. So message I will send like OTP and I will pass the token here. Okay, that's it. And in the post async, we have to change it to phone number. So instead of hard coding, what I will do here in the input model, okay, this is the form model in our Azure page. I'm going to create a new property. Okay, to fact auth provider name. Okay, I want to make the dynamic. Okay, now what I will do, I will assign it provider value here. It is a phone number executed. I will use phone number. Okay, so it will be input dot. Okay, same way here I can use email. So I can simply assign this value in the post method. So here I can use that value. But To maintain its state, we have to maintain this value in the HTML as a hidden field so that in form post also it will maintain this value state. So let's go to HTML. Okay, just like this, remember me in the hidden field. I will create one more hidden field, that is input dot or two-factor code. Okay, that's it. I am good. Now I can check the phone number, two-factor authentication. Okay, and here is small correction. We have to model initialize the input model. Okay, now let's test. Okay, let's do login with valid password. Okay, now let me wait for the code. So I got the code. Okay, let's try to log in. See, I'm successfully logged in. Okay, here I can't show you my mobile, right? But I have already, but if you see, this is my blog. Okay, here I have added my mobile screenshot. Okay, so like this, you will get the code from the Twilio. Here you can see sent from the Twilio, and it is showing also it is my trial account. Okay, so that means we have successfully sent our two-factor authentication to user mobile. Okay, and here one more thing I forgot to mention. Okay, the user two phone number must always contains country code. Okay, if you don't have a country code added, then two-factor, sorry, Twilio unable to send the SMS to the mobile number. Okay, so make sure the user phone number contains its country code as well. Okay, so that's all about the two-factor authentication code sending to mobile, user mobile. So in the next video, we are going to implement the Google authentication using the ASP.NET Core Identity. ASP.NET Core Identity infrastructure also supported by the Google authentication. Okay, first thing is we must register our application, our Razor Page application with the Google service. Okay, okay, go to console.cloud.google.com/project selector. A dashboard will appear like this. Okay, at the API and services. So click on create project, and here we have to define the name of the project. You can give any name. I'll give it like Razor.NET 7, and I can leave location default. Click on create. Okay. Project successfully creates, then it will appear in this drop down. Next, on left hand side, click on Auth consent screen. So here, user type, we have to select external and click on create. And here we have to provide some app information. Okay, I simply give like Razor app, and here email address, our by default authenticated email address will come. Okay, remaining all optional, and bottom there is a developer contact information. Here also I will give a normal Gmail address. Click on save and continue. Now we are on scopes tab. Now click on add or remove scope. From right hand side, check email, profile and open ID scopes and click on update. Okay. Next, save and continue. So here is the main page. Test users means for the development time. Okay. To check the Google authentication. So we have to register the email addresses here. Whatever emails we register here, only those emails are eligible to do Google authentication with our local application. Okay. So here we have to add all our test email addresses. Okay. So I am going to add one different address that I am going to use it for authentication. Okay. In upcoming steps. Okay. So this is my test email. Add it. So now I only able to authenticate with my local application only with this email address only, because for testing we must add test addresses. Okay, in real time we no need to add. Okay, click on save and continue, and here we can click on go to dashboard. Okay, app registration is done. Next thing is we have to get the uh, Google secret ID and secret key. For that, click on credentials, click on create credentials, and we have to select OAuth client ID. Okay, here in the drop down, select web application. Okay, here also I will name it like Razor client. Any name you can give. Okay, and next here authorized redirect URI. Here we have to configure our local application URL. Okay, let's run my application. Okay, let's give this URL. Click on add URL and add it here. Okay, it is non-HTTP, right? Let's give HTTPS URL. For that, we need to do small chain. In OBJ, not OBJ, in properties, in the launch settings, non-HTTP is at the top in the profiles list. So what I will do, cut HTTPS and paste it on top of the profiles list. Okay, now if I rerun, I will get HTTPS URL. Okay, okay, here is my HTTPS URL. Copy that and add it here. And there is a default path at the end of the URL we have to specify. Okay, so that is like sign in Google. Okay, that is the default path. Here in real time, you have to give your domain slash sign in Google. That is the default path. And now click on create. Okay, here is the client ID and client secret. So make sure to copy them. Okay, so what I will do, let's configure in our application. Okay, so open app settings.development.json file. Specify like Google Auth settings. Okay, client ID and client secret. Okay, copy this client ID, copy this client secret. Okay, we are done with registration with the Google. Now to enable the Google authentication with ASP.NET Core identity, we need to install a NuGet package. So search like Microsoft Google Auth NuGet. we will get Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.Authentication.Google. Okay. Visual Studio 2020 users, copy from package manager, CLI, copy it from here. Open terminal, open one more terminal and install the package. Okay, to confirm package installed successfully, click in CS project file. Okay, here is the Google package. Now we have to register the Google service in the program.cs file. Okay, builder.services.add authentication. Okay, dot add Google. Okay, Google options. So here we need to configure our client ID and client secret. So Google options dot client ID, and I have to load it from the settings, right? So we know how to load from settings. So here I need to change the root property, and here we have to pass exact property, that is client ID. Okay. Now let's configure the client secret. So Google options dot client secret. Okay. So copy this line of code and change this property name. Okay. That's it. We are done with the Google integration. Let's test our application. So make sure to rerun our application again. Let's copy my application URL and let's open it in incognito tab. Okay, so that we can see all the execution process of Google login, because here I have already signed in with my Google, right? So few steps may skip because we are already authenticated, right? So to test full steps, please make sure to open it in incognito tab. Now, if you click on register, you can see a Google button. You click on login also, it will show you a Google button. That is because we just enabled this add Google method, right? So that will automatically enable this button. Okay. So let me click on this Google button. See, it is successfully redirect to Google login page. So let me enter my email address. See, this email must be our test email. We added a test email, right? Only those emails only get success for testing. Okay. Next, let me enter password. And it is asking two-factor verification. This is Google one, not our application one. 201-003. Okay, it is redirecting and it is successfully redirected back to my application, and it is showing you have successfully authenticated with Google. Please enter email address. Okay. So please enter the email address for this site and register button. But we haven't logged in because after successful authentication, our application is trying to create a user for this email address. Okay. So now let me go to my database. Okay. We have to open two tables. One is users, another one is ASP.NET user login. Okay, user login is empty, and user my this email have no record. Till now, no record. Okay. Now, if I click on register, see, registration confirmation is required. Okay. That means email, registration email sent to my email. Okay. So now if I check the database, see, new record is inserted, but there is no password because it is a Google authentication. And if I execute this ASP.NET user logins, see here also one record is added, and this record is internally mapped with this record ID, user ID, this user ID. So from this table we can identify from where this user is authenticating. So here you can see the user is authenticating from the Google. Okay. So here email is not confirmed, right? So if you try to re-log in also, it won't log in. Okay, now what I can do, I need to go to my email. Okay, here you can see confirmation email. Okay, copy this email. Okay, go to incognito tab. Okay, and access the URL. Now it is showing thank you for confirming the email. Okay, so if I check database, the email confirmation must be true now. Okay, let's execute. Now it is email is confirmed. Now if I try to re-authenticate with Google, I will directly redirect back to my application. Okay, let's click on login page. And now if I click on Google, see, I am directly authenticated. Okay, so that means we are successfully authenticated with Google with the help of ASP.NET Core Identity Infrastructure. Okay, so next we are going to implement Facebook authentication with help of ASP.NET Core Identity. Let's begin steps for implementing Facebook authentication. Okay, to integrate Facebook authentication with our ASP.NET Core Identity, we need to install Facebook package. Okay, okay, search like Microsoft Authentication Facebook NuGet. Okay, click on the top link. And Visual Studio users copy the command from Package Manager tab. We are using .NET CLI, right? So copy the package from .NET CLI tab. Copy the command, open terminal, paste the command and install the package. So package is successfully installed. To cross verify, we can check package reference in our CS project file. Here is the package. Okay. Now we have to register our Razor Page application with Facebook dashboard. Okay. Okay, you have to go to developers.facebook.com. Okay. So it is the dashboard for the developers. Now click on create app button. And here under the create app, you can see select an app type. So which is our app type is, we can choose consumer. Okay, select the consumer and click on the next button. Here we need to provide a name for our app. Okay, so I am going to give the name like .NET 7. Okay, and create app. So it's going to asking for authentication. I am going to provide my credentials. Okay, once we created our app, you can see our app selected in this drop down. Okay, so in this dashboard page, we can see a card that represents Facebook. Okay, so click on setup button on the Facebook login card. Now here we are under Facebook login, left hand side menu, and it is the quick start page. Let's go to settings. Okay, here we have to provide our callback URL. Okay, so here valid OAuth redirection is there, right? Here I have to provide the callback URL of my application. Okay, so let me run my .NET 7 Razor Page application. We know command to run our application, that is .NET under watch mode run. Okay, here is my application. So here in our case, localhost is our domain, right? Copy that domain. Okay, and we have to frame a URL now. Okay, so that URL will be like copy that domain, and we have to provide a default path for Facebook sign in, that is sign in face. Okay, this is the URL we have to register with Facebook, and this is the URL which is understand by our ASP.NET Core identity. So copy this command, sorry, URL, and get back to our Facebook dashboard. In the valid OAuth redirect URL, paste it. Okay, and save the changes. Okay, our URL is saved. Now on the right hand side, we have a settings tab, right? So here you have to go to the basics. Okay, basic tab. And here it will showing some settings like app ID and app secret, which are very important for us. We have to copy this app ID and app settings into our application. So for that, let's go to our application, open the app settings.json file, and here, just like Google authentication settings, let me add my Facebook auth settings. Okay, so here we have to configure API key, sorry, app ID, app secret. Now I will copy app ID. Okay, now we have to copy app secret also. So to copy the app secret, click on show. So this is one-time secret. Okay, if you want to see again, it will be changed. Okay, so copy the secret code, add it here. Okay, now we got the credentials for Facebook authentication like app ID, app secret. Now let's register our Facebook service in our program.cs file, just like we did for Google. So here we can extend our authentication like add Facebook. Okay, so Facebook dot app ID we have to configure, right? And Facebook dot app secret we have to configure. So we know how to read from the JSON file. So copy this line of code, okay, and add it here. First we have to get the section. Section is nothing but the our Facebook authentication property name. So paste it here, and actual property which value we want. So here I want app ID. So paste it here. That's going to read app ID from the JSON file. Same way I can apply to app secret also. Okay, and here I need to change it to app secret. That's it. We are done with Facebook integration. Let's test the Facebook authentication flow. Okay. Okay. Now refresh, rebuild our application. And if we reload our application page, go to either register page or login page. Okay. Any one of the page. Now here you can see Facebook button is coming. So how this is coming means once we enable the authentication service, automatically it will appears. Okay. Now let's test the flow of Facebook authentication. Here one reminder, since I have already logged into my Facebook in the Chrome browser. Okay. So if I do authentication process here, few steps will skipped by default because my application is already logged in with this browser. So to see all the steps, please make sure to test our application in incognito browser. Okay, let me open incognito browser. Any browser where you didn't log in with your Facebook already. Okay, so let's access the application. Now I am going to click on the Facebook button. Now observe the URL. It is navigated to Facebook login page. So let me provide my credentials. Here one more thing, since it is a development app, right? So which account you have created developer credentials, this account. Only that account only you can able to use for testing login. Okay. If I use other than this account, I won't log in because it is a restriction. If you go for live, then it will our application can be logged with any kind of user. But under testing environment, it only allows the registered user here. Okay, so I am going to use this user only. Okay, and let me give my password. And click on continue. Okay, here you can see you are successfully authenticated with Facebook. Please enter the email address for registration. So my Facebook authentication is valid, but I don't have a account with my identity application. So to create the account, uh, email is must and should. So we have to provide the email. Here one more thing, the Facebook which I logged in may contains this email or may contains other email. Nowadays, without email also we are able to register with Facebook using the phone number, right? So the whatever email we are going to register here is it doesn't mean it belongs to Facebook. Okay, Facebook account. Just for our application, we require the Gmail. Okay, so you can give any valid Gmail here to register with the Facebook. Okay, so let me click on the register. But here one validation error throwing that this email is already exist. Yes, if you recall, with normal identity process, I already registered with the this email address. So To complete my Facebook authentication, let me delete this record. Okay, that is because email must be unique in ASP.NET identity. Let me delete this record. Okay, let me delete this record. Okay, now that email is deleted. Now if I try again, so it is sending confirmation email has been sent. Okay, now I need to get that confirmation email address. Okay, let me go to my email, copy the URL. Okay, and come back here and access it. So email confirmation is done successfully. Okay, now we have to register login again. So let me close the browser. So I just closed the browser because I want to see all the registration, sorry, all the Facebook login steps again. Okay, so copy the URL, and before login, let's check whether the user is created or not. Okay, so here is our application and here is the email, and if I check the ASP.NET logins, here also one record is inserted and this is mapped with this record. Okay, here one thing I want to uh, mention you that when you try to log in after successful registration, when we try to log in into our ASP.NET Core Identity application, how Facebook identifies this user is already registered means that is depends upon this provider key. So this is a key, nothing but the ID value of the user at the Facebook. Okay, that means here we won't depend upon Facebook Gmail address or phone number. We depend upon the provider key. Okay, so that is why we can give any email address. I have told right previously I can give any email address. That is the reason because it won't depend upon the Facebook authentication won't depend upon the email. It's depend upon the ID we are saving. That logic is internally handled by our ASP.NET Core Identity. This implementation is not only for Facebook, it is applied to any kind of social login like Google, Facebook, Twitter. Okay. Now let me, I am registered, right? Now if I try to log in, I will directly log in. Okay. Click on Facebook page, enter the credentials. See, I am able to log in successfully. Okay, that's all about integrating Facebook authentication with the help of ASP.NET Core ID. So let's implement Twitter authentication into our ASP.NET Core Identity project. Okay, so to integrate Twitter authentication, first we need to install the required Twitter authentication package. Okay, such like Microsoft Twitter Auth NuGet, and you can find this link. Click on it. Okay, the required package is microsoft.aspnetcore.authentication.twitter. Okay, let me copy the CLI command, and now let's open the terminal, paste the command, install the package. Package installed successfully. Cross verify, go to CS project, and here is the package reference. Okay, now we have to register our Razor Page application with Twitter dashboard. Okay, this is the developer.twitter dashboard. Click on create project and provide the project name. I will name it like .NET 7. Then click on next and select one of the use case. I will select like teaching. And next, give some or project description like implementing auth in browser page application. Okay, click on next. So here we have to choose the app environment. Okay, here I am going to use development environment. Next click, and here we have to create the app name. Previously we created the project name. Okay, now we have to add the application under the project. Okay, so I will name it like browser page. Okay, click on next. Okay, now here we are going to see some keys and tokens. For our demo, to use the Twitter authentication, we required API key and API key secret. Okay, so let's store them in our application. So go to appsettings.development.json. Here, let me add a Twitter auth settings. Okay, and here we have to configure API key and API secret. Okay, and let's copy them. First API key copy, next API secret. Okay, now click on the app settings button. Okay, here is our application under the .NET 7 project. Okay, now you have to set up our application routing you callback URL. For that, in the app settings, click on the setup details. Okay, now user authentication settings page. This is so under app permissions. I will select just a read permission. Okay, I just need tweet and profile information. This option, and you can select the request a email from the user so that uh, Twitter will provide the user email in the clients if the user registered with email. Okay, and next type of the app, since it is a web application, right? Select this second option. Now here I need to provide my callback URL. Okay. Okay. Let's prepare the callback URL for Twitter. Okay. So I have to add a path like sign in Twitter. So this will be the callback URL which is understood by our ASP.NET Core identity. Okay. So let's copy this URL and add it here. Okay. Now here there are few required fields. Okay. Website URL and the terms and conditions. So if you try to provide local URL, it won't accept. It is throwing like invalid URL because it is expecting original domain. Okay. If you don't have a website, don't worry. You can create a free website either in Google Blogspot or WordPress. Okay. Since I have a blog, which is my personal domain, so I am going to use that domain. Okay. So this is my personal domain, blog domain. I'm going to provide it at website URL and I have privacy page. So I'm going to provide it privacy page. See, these are required fields and I don't have any terms and service. So let me add about me page. Okay. Some dummy URL. Okay. I'm passing here. So that is the reason you can create some dummy pages either in the Blogspot or WordPress. You can provide here. Okay. And click on the save button. Okay. Now user authentication settings we configured. Now let's move to our identity application. Okay. Now we have to register Twitter service in program.cs file. Okay. So add Twitter. Okay. There are options. And just like other social logins, here also we have to register the secret key and secret ID here. So Twitter options dot client consumer key and consumer ID. Okay, consumer secret. So these two need to be configured. Okay, so consumer key is nothing but our Twitter API key. Consumer secret is nothing but our Twitter secret. Okay, so let's read those two values from the JSON. For that, let's copy this line of code. Okay, add it over here and change the section with Twitter auth setting property and app ID with app key, API key. Okay, and let's do for consumer secret also. Okay, so it should be API secret. Okay, that's it. We are done with our Twitter integration into our application. Let's rerun our application. Okay, and I am going to open my project in incognito browser because I have already logged in Twitter in my browser, normal browser. If I try to access, few login steps might automatically skipped. Okay, that is the reason I am using incognito. Or you can use any browser where you didn't log into your Twitter account already. Okay, if I click on login page, here you can see Twitter button is enabled. Now click on Twitter. See, I am redirect back to my Twitter page. And if you see here, I am getting my browser page, application name, and domain, all these things. These can be customizable for the paid version, means production versions. Okay. So let me log into my account. Okay, it is redirecting. I am successfully logged in. So here also it is showing you are successfully authenticated with Twitter and please associate a email address. Okay, now I need to give some email address. You can give any email address. Okay, so let me give my email. Okay, try to register. And I am getting this Gmail is already taken. So if I check my database, here you can see that Gmail and it is registered with my Facebook authentication, right? So if you have another Gmail, you can use that Gmail. Since I don't have any more, so I am going to delete the record from here so that I can use that Gmail address. Okay, first let's remove the child table record. This Facebook table record is associated with this user table. So first remove the record from this table. Okay, record is, I deleted another record. Fine. Okay, now the record is deleted. Now try to remove it from users table also. Edit top 200 records and I want to delete this email record. Now if I try to log in, sorry, register my email, here it is showing, please check your email account for confirmation email. Okay, for that, let's check our tables whether the user record is inserted or not. Okay, see, I have this record. And if I check user login, see, I have Twitter record associated with this record. Means Twitter user is registered with my ASP.NET Core identity. Okay. Now let's confirm the email. and copy the link. Okay, access it on browser. So here it can showing email is confirmed. Now let's try to log in again. Since I have already logged in with Twitter, right, while registering, so please close the browser, copy the URL again, and open the incognito again. Okay. Now try to log in Twitter login page. Okay, successfully logged in, and finally I am able to log in with Twitter into my account. So that means we are successfully integrated the Twitter authentication into our ASP.NET Core Identity application. To implement Microsoft Authentication, we required Microsoft Account NuGet package. Search like Microsoft Authentication, Microsoft Account NuGet, and you are going to see a NuGet link like this. So the actual package is Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.Authentication.Microsoft account. So copy the CLI command and open the terminal, clean the terminal, add our command and install the package. Package installed successfully. To cross verify, go to CS project file. And here you are going to see the package reference like this. Okay, now we have to register our ASP.NET Core Identity project into the Azure portal so that we can enable the Microsoft account authentication. Okay, please make sure to register with the Azure portal. Once you register, you are going to land on a dashboard like this. Now here you can see a option like app registrations. So click on the app registrations. And here there is a button like a new registration. So click on the new registration. So here we need to give a name to our application. Okay. So I am going to give a name like .NET 7 and supported account types. You can choose the third option and scroll down. Here there is a redirect URL. First we need to specify the platform. Since our application is web application, right? I am going to select web option. And here we have to frame a redirect URL of our application and we have to add it here. So let me run my ASP.NET Core Identity application. So command to run our .NET application is .NET watch run. So this is my application domain and I have to create a callback URL for Microsoft account. So the complete path of the URI is your localhost domain slash signin slash hyphen Microsoft. Okay, this sign in Microsoft is a default path understood by the ASP.NET Core identity. So copy this URL and add it in this text box and click on the register button. Now our application is successfully registered. Now the thing here, there is an application ID. So we require this application ID in our application. So copy this and in our JSON file, which is nothing but app settings.development.json file, just like any other social login, we need to have a app ID and app secret. So let me create the settings for Microsoft account. Microsoft Auth setting. Okay, let me add like app ID. App ID is nothing but application ID. I just copied, right? I am going to paste it over here. Next, I required app secret. So we need to generate the app secret now. So to generate app secret in our dashboard under our application, you can see a menu like certificates and secrets. Click on it and click on new client secret. Okay, here give some description for your secret and check the expiration time of your secret key. Okay, so click on add button and it finally generates a security key for me. So I have to copy the value. Okay, copy the value of the secret and add into our application. Okay, so that's it. We are done with Azure portal dashboard. Now I have to register the Microsoft Auth service in the program.cs file. Okay, add Microsoft account. Okay, new options. So new options dot ID client ID. Okay, client ID. We have to assign our app ID value. Same way, client secret. To this, we have to add the app secret. Okay. So we know how to read from the JSON file. Just copy this line. Okay. And we need to change the section name. It is Microsoft Auth settings. Okay. And the app ID property name. Same way I can read client secret also. Okay. So we are done with the code changes. Now we can test our Microsoft account authentication. So let's rebuild the application. Okay, let's go to our application. To click on either register or login button, we can see the Microsoft button enabled for login. Okay, so I am going to access my application in incognito tab because in this browser I have already logged into my Microsoft account. So if I try to do Microsoft login here, few login steps skips. So to see all the steps, I am going to open the application in incognito tab. You can use any browser, but where you should not already logged into your Microsoft account. Okay. So let me click on the Microsoft login button. So if you observe now I am navigate to the Microsoft login page. So let me give my credentials. Okay, here it is asking whether to access or not. Give access. Okay, here we can see a message. You are successfully authenticated with Microsoft. So please associate an email. So if I observe my database, okay, in ASP.NET Core logins, there is no Microsoft account provider. That means the user is not yet registered. To register the user, we should associate the email. So I am going to register now. So here it is showing, please check a confirmation email. Okay. So before that, if I check again my database, see, now the Microsoft user provider is registered. And also if I check the user table, here there is the Outlook email. Means now I am registered my user. Okay, to activate my users, I have to click on the link that was sent to my email address. So here is the email I received. Let me copy the URL and let try to activate my account. Okay, now email confirmation is successful. Let me try to log in now. Okay, so let me close this browser again. Why I closed means I have previously logged in, right, Microsoft account. So it might skip few login steps. Okay, so I closed the incognito and open again. Now click on Microsoft. Is asking my credentials. See, now I am logged in into my Razor Page application. That means I am successfully implemented the Microsoft account authentication in the ASP.NET Core Identity project. Okay. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this video delivered some useful content to you all. If you like the video, please do support me by subscribing to my channel. Soon we are going to meet with new content. Until then, signing off.